Hi, and welcome back to another StoryHouse episode. Today, I will present the book, I Contain Multitudes, subtitled The Microbes Within Us, and a Grander View of Life for you. It is a fascinating book that delves into the history of microorganisms. I will take approximately 30 minutes to share the book's essence. We will explore how to perceive the relationship between humans and bacteria, and gain a new perspective on understanding diseases. You may have noticed an increasing number of children around you developing allergies. Some are allergic to pollen, while others are allergic to peanut butter. Additionally, many young children are diagnosed with asthma. Why is it that despite economic development and improved hygiene conditions, children are more prone to allergies? Scientific research proposes a new concept called the hygiene hypothesis, suggesting that precisely because hygiene conditions have significantly improved over the past 50 years, children have had fewer opportunities to be exposed to bacteria. As a result, they have become more sensitive to various microorganisms. So, why do we encounter more problems when our contact with microorganisms is reduced? This book, I Contain Multitudes, provides a detailed explanation and offers a comprehensive understanding of bacteria. Our previous knowledge of bacteria needed to be revised, assuming all bacteria cause illness. However, the truth is that pathogenic bacteria or pathogens are a tiny minority. The vast majority of bacteria living within our bodies can peacefully coexist with humans. Nevertheless, the diversity of bacteria in the human body is rapidly decreasing. Similar to saving endangered animals, we also need to protect the diversity of microbial communities within our bodies, because this contributes to our ability to resist diseases and maintain good health. The author of this book is a rising science writer named Yong. He is regarded as one of the most outstanding contemporary science journalists. Yong's work has been featured in the Atlantic Monthly, and he's a prolific science writer, contributing to magazines such as National Geographic, Nature, and Scientific American. This book is his first major work, providing a new perspective on viewing the world through microorganisms. The Economist reviewed the book, stating Microbes finally have a respectable album. I will interpret the key contents of this book for you from three aspects. First, why it's said that living organisms cannot live without bacteria. Second, why the bacteria in our gut is so important. Third, I will provide a new perspective to understand diseases, viewing them from an ecological balance standpoint to see how they occur. Let's look at the first question. Why do we say that living organisms cannot live without bacteria? Most people associate bacteria with disease-causing microorganisms, considering them synonymous with filth and disease, something to avoid at all costs. Especially for children, we emphasize the need to stay away from bacteria. But are bacteria indeed just representatives of dirtiness and disease? Of course not. For millions of years, bacteria and humans have been in a symbiotic relationship. Bacteria and viruses, such as microorganisms, have been around much longer than humans. Bacteria are unicellular organisms and are the most numerous type of all living things. Viruses, on the other hand, are even smaller, composed of DNA or RNA and protein, and live as parasites. The bacteria or pathogens that cause disease are just a tiny part of all bacteria. Most bacteria living in the human body coexist peacefully with us, even forming indispensable symbiotic relationships. This means that bacteria obtain nutrients from our food, and their existence and the chemical substances they produce greatly assist our growth. Take the experiment of germ-free mice as an example to see what a living organism looks like without bacteria. Scientists raised mice in a germ-free environment. On the outside, these mice look no different from other mice. However, upon dissection, it was found that the digestive systems of mice grown in a germ-free environment were not fully developed. This experiment proved that bacteria are vital to the growth and development of mice. Further research found that some bacteria in normal mice play a role in managing and activating mouse genes. Another book, The Secret Life of Genes discusses how the external environment greatly influences genes. The bacteria inside a mouse can activate the mouse's genes, prompting it to develop a healthy gastrointestinal system, promoting the growth and thickening of the inner walls of the stomach and intestines, fostering the development of the capillary network, and generating more mature cells. In a nutshell, a mouse without bacteria may look no different from an ordinary mouse, but its bodily development is extremely abnormal. It cannot survive in an external environment at all. The example of germ-free mice makes us realize the dependency of living organisms on bacteria. However, the symbiotic relationship we are discussing is mutual dependence. So, what can bacteria get from organisms? Let's look at the example of breastfeeding. Nowadays, more and more people are advocating breastfeeding. If you ask them why, most people will say that breast milk has more nutrients, children fed with breast milk have better immune development, and breastfed children are smarter. These explanations are correct, but it would be wrong to think babies directly absorb breast milk's nutrients to become healthier and smarter. This type of explanation ignores the role of bacteria. Many researchers were puzzled as breast milk is just a mix of fats and sugars. Why would mammals expend so much energy to produce milk? It was later discovered that breast milk contains more than 200 types of polysaccharides, another name, HMOs, which are relatively complex sugars. If you compare breast milk with cow's milk, breast milk has much more variety of HMOs, 4 times that of cow's milk, and the quantity is hundreds of times more. Researchers felt enlightened, thinking that the numerous HMOs in breast milk must provide essential nutrients for the infant. However, the research results were quite surprising. Infants can't absorb HMOs at all. The HMOs that mothers expend so much energy to produce are actually feeding the bacteria in the baby's stomach and intestines. After these bacteria utilize the HMOs, they make a chemical substance that aids the development of the cell membranes of the baby's small intestine, helping it grow better. The result is that breastfed infants have stronger digestive abilities, and their chances of getting diarrhea or other diseases are much reduced. Interestingly, not all bacteria in the baby's body absorb this sugar. It's a specific type of bacteria that parasitizes in the baby's large intestine that loves using HMOs. HMOs can smoothly pass through the stomach and small intestine to enter the large intestine. The goal is to allow these bacteria in the baby's large intestine to thrive. The end result is that breastfeeding is feeding the bacteria in the baby's body. In turn, these bacteria produce chemical substances that promote the baby's growth and development. This is an example of a good symbiotic relationship. The next question is, why in the process of human evolution have over 200 types of HMOs evolved in breast milk? Scientists have 2 hypotheses, both related to the microbiota in the colon. The first hypothesis is that HMOs can indirectly promote brain development. As we mentioned earlier, the bacteria in the large intestine that like to use HMOs can produce a chemical substance called sialic acid, which aids human brain development. Among primates, humans have the largest brains, and brain development is fastest during the infant stage. From birth to 1 year old is the most rapid phase of brain development. Scientists hypothesize that during millions of years of evolution, to adapt to the various demands of group living such as memory, communication, and handling interpersonal relationships, humans have a great need to promote brain development. This need is translated into the evolution of numerous HMOs in breast milk in order to cultivate a variety of bacteria, secreting more sialic acid. The second hypothesis is to reduce the chance of viral infection. Humans are social animals, and as human evolution and social organization become more complex, more and more people live in groups. One disadvantage of group living is that the chance of infectious disease is much greater than for solitary animals. The pathogen that cause diseases can easily transfer from one person to another, and epidemics can quickly occur. Viral infections most commonly occur in the large intestine, and viruses are most likely to attack the cells of the large intestine wall. However, the bacteria that like to eat HMOs resemble the cells of the large intestine wall and can confuse viruses, thus protecting the large intestine wall. This is also why breastfed infants get sick less often. Bacteria can attract many viruses, even including HIV, the virus that causes AIDS. This is also why, even if breastfeeding infants' mothers carry the HIV, and there are HIV viruses in the breast milk, infants are rarely infected. The reason why there are more than 200 different HMOs in breast milk is to make the bacteria in the large intestine that like to eat them more diverse. In this way, they can confuse a wider variety of viruses and disease-causing bacteria. So, that is the first key point of this book. Over millions of years of evolution, organisms and bacteria have formed a symbiotic relationship. The experiment with germ-free mice proves that without bacteria, mice would not develop healthily. Research on breast milk has discovered an even more magical symbiotic relationship. The various HMOs in breast milk cultivate the robust growth of specific bacterial colonies in the baby's large intestine. And the chemical substances produced by these bacterial colonies can promote the development of the large intestine. Most of the examples I just gave involve bacteria in the gut. This shows that gut bacteria play a critical role in the growth and development of organisms. You may ask, why are gut bacteria so important? This leads us to the second part of our discussion. The example of breastfeeding we mentioned earlier has already shown us the excellent symbiotic relationship between bacteria and humans. The place where bacteria gather most in mammals is the gut. The microbiota gathered in a person's gut not only can help colon and cognitive development in infancy, but also influence a person's body. For instance, some people can eat anything without gaining weight, while others may gain weight just by drinking water. Let's look at two examples of how important gut bacteria are. First, let's continue with the experiment with germ-free mice we mentioned earlier. Scientists found that gut development in germ-free mice is slow, and their immune system doesn't work properly. If placed in an external environment, they are easily attacked by viruses and disease, causing bacteria, and get infected and sick. How to change this? Researchers added a common bacterium to the gut of the germ-free mice, and soon the mice's immune system started to work normally. The most important indicator in the blood also returned to normal. Further research found that what made the difference was not the bacteria themselves, but a sugar molecule called PSA on the outer wall of the bacteria. Why can polysaccharide, a molecule, aka PSA, make the immune system work properly? Let me explain the working principle of the immune system first. The immune systems of humans and animals are like the thermostat of an air conditioner at home. To make the body feel comfortable, the key is to have an appropriate temperature, not too high or too low. Similarly, the immune system regulates the microbiota in the human body. The function of the immune system is to ensure that millions of bacteria in the human body live normally, while also providing protection against a small amount of risky foreign bacteria. If the defense is too strong, the immune system may kill normal bacteria in the body. If the defense is not strong enough, it may lower the protection level and let disease-causing bacteria take advantage. This common bacterium in the gut and the PSA molecule on its surface serve as regulators of the immune system. Researchers believe that the PSA molecule carries a kind of symbiotic factor, equivalent to sending a message to the body's immune system, meaning you won't cause trouble. After the body's immune system receives this message, it gradually learns to judge who are normal bacteria and who are disease-causing bacteria. The bacteria in the human gut are essential for maintaining the immune system in a stable state. The chemical substances they produce can ensure that the immune system doesn't go awry, just like an air conditioner won't get too cold or too hot. Let's talk about the second example. The composition of the microbiota in the gut greatly determines whether a person will become fat or thin. A few years ago, The media hyped up a new weight loss method, saying that one could lose weight by simply changing the gut microbiota without dieting. Is weight loss really that simple? Can the bacteria in the gut really decide who gets fat and who gets thin? Scientists first conducted experiments on germ-free mice. They isolated bacteria believed to cause obesity and injected them into the gut of the germ-free mice. The result was clear. The mice given the obesity-causing bacteria indeed became fat after some time. Then, they replaced the microbiota in the obese mice with bacteria believed to cause them to become thin to see if it could help the mice lose weight. The result was also clear. When the gut microbiota was replaced, the mice slimmed down. The experiment proved that the gut microbiota has a decisive impact on obesity. So, is it true that obesity has nothing to do with diet and is only related to the gut microbiota, as advertisements claim? In other words, can you simply replace your current bacteria with thinning bacteria and not need to change poor eating habits and not gain weight, even if you eat greasy food every day? Scientists then simulated this on mice. They first replaced the gut bacteria in obese mice with thinning bacteria and then fed them unhealthy food, much like humans' greasy food. The result was that the weight loss effect quickly diminished. On the other hand, if they gave these mice normal, fiber-rich mouse food, the weight loss effect was very significant. Why is this so? It becomes clear if you think about the relationship between breastfeeding, microbiota, and the chemical substances produced by the microbiota stimulating infant development. Obesity-causing and thinning bacteria have different preferences for food. If you eat high fiber healthy food, thinning bacteria can thrive in the gut because they have more food. Even if obesity-causing bacteria dominate in the gut, thinning bacteria can gradually gain the upper hand because obesity-causing bacteria cannot digest fiber. In contrast, if you continue to eat greasy food, even if thinning bacteria are transplanted into the gut, they won't survive long due to a lack of food, and the weight loss effect will soon disappear, followed by a rapid rebound. The examples above tell us that thinning bacteria can make the host lose weight because they are better at absorbing fiber, while obesity-causing bacteria can make the host gain weight because they are better at digesting fat. To lose weight by changing the gut microbiota, you need to create a new balance within the body. It's not enough just to replace the microbiota. You also need to combine it with a healthy diet to allow the thinning bacteria to thrive. The above is the second key point of this book. The gut microbiota is very important. It not only fine-tunes the body's immune system and helps train the immune system to adjust to the most appropriate defensive state, but it may also have an impact on the body, such as causing obesity or helping with weight loss. However, simply replacing the gut bacteria with thinning bacteria does not necessarily result in weight loss. The symbiotic relationship between humans and bacteria is much more complex. We need to view the influence of bacteria from the perspective of the entire symbiotic ecosystem. Next, I'm going to offer you a new perspective for understanding diseases, viewing them from the standpoint of ecological balance. This is the third key point we're going to talk about. The natural world and the human body have a lot in common. For example, the ecological imbalance in nature leads to environmental degradation, just as an imbalance in the body's microbial community can lead to disease. Similarly, species extinction in nature, leading to ecological problems, can be compared to a dramatic decrease in the diversity of microbial communities in the human body, leading to health problems. Let's first take an example of an ecological imbalance in the natural environment. The Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral reef system in the world, stretches along the northeastern coast of Australia. It is an astonishing underwater spectacle. However, the Great Barrier Reef is facing significant risks. Some coral reefs are being killed by overheated seawater, and some are at risk of bleaching. The Great Barrier Reef was once one of the most vibrant and intact ecosystems in the world, but its balance is highly fragile. Climate change, pollution, and diseases caused by microbes can all potentially bring about enormous destruction. If we observe the ecological degradation of the Great Barrier Reef from a microbial perspective, we will find that it shares commonalities with human health. The vitality of the Great Barrier Reef depends on maintaining the balance of its symbiotic ecosystem. Likewise, for the human body to stay healthy, it needs to maintain the balance of its internal ecosystem. Both diseases and natural ecological destruction disrupt this balance. The imbalance may originate from the most minor places, such as a disruption in microbial communities, which can trigger a chain reaction and even fundamentally destroy the basis of symbiotic relationships. In another way, if we look at the human body from an ecosystem perspective, human diseases resemble the proliferation of blue-green algae in a lake or weeds in a grassland. It indicates that something is wrong with the ecosystem. Many diseases stem from the invasion of a single microorganism. This microorganism could be a disease-causing bacterium or a virus such as HIV. Diseases caused by a single invading microorganism, though they may not be easy to treat, are at least easy to understand. We know where to start to solve the problem. However, most diseases are not caused by a single disease-causing bacterium. On the contrary, most conditions occur when the entire microbial community in the body changes, complicating the problem. When the whole microbial community in the human body changes into a state that triggers disease, it's academically referred to as dysbiosis. Gastroenteritis is a good example. The cause of gastroenteritis is not a single disease-causing bacterium, but the result of a combination of internal and external factors. These include genetic factors, viral infections, internal immune system disorders, and external environmental pollution. Eventually, the entire gut microbial community changes into a diseased state, causing inflammation. Let's draw another analogy between microbial communities and the natural world. In nature, the extinction of many plants and animals directly threatens ecological diversity and can easily lead to environmental imbalance. Similarly, the improvement in sanitary conditions and the use, even overuse, of antibiotics over the past 50 years has led to the extinction of a large number of bacteria. This directly reduces the diversity of the body's microbial community, making it very easy to create an ecological imbalance. Having discussed ecological imbalance, let's talk about how reducing the diversity of the body's microbial community can cause health issues. For example, scientists compared the health conditions of people in Uganda with those in the West. Compared to the clean environments of Western societies, Ugandans live in much more primitive conditions. However, from a bacterial perspective, the better living conditions in the West have killed many bacteria and are not conducive to microbial diversity. In contrast, the living conditions in Uganda have allowed a wider variety of bacteria to survive. Research has found that Ugandans are much healthier than Westerners. This is partly because the amount of fiber in Ugandan diets is 7 times that of an average Western diet, and their digestion is also faster. But the most significant difference between the two is bacteria. The diversity of bacterial communities in Ugandans' guts is much greater than that of Westerners. The reduction in the diversity of the body's microbial community not only increases the risk of dysbiosis, but also allows disease-causing bacteria to invade the body easily. In biology, there is a term called colonization resistance, which refers to the fact that if a living organism has a diverse and thriving microbial community, it will not leave much room for disease-causing bacteria. Hence, the presence of a microbial community itself constitutes resistance against disease-causing bacteria. However, suppose the diversity of the microbial community decreases. In that case, it may leave a lot of space for dangerous microbes, which can not only invade successfully, but also have more food to grow and expand, replacing the symbiotic bacteria in the ecosystem. Let's also look at the benefits of natural childbirth and breastfeeding from the perspective of fostering diversity in a child's microbial community. If it's a natural birth, the child can take on the mother's bacteria as they pass through the birth canal. Similarly, with breastfeeding, In addition to absorbing HMOs, which are favored by the gut microbial community, the child also comes into contact with the mother's bacteria. The type of bacteria the child comes into contact with early on, and whether they can encounter a variety of bacteria, is very beneficial for developing their internal microbial community. The mother's bacteria are much healthier than those on a sterile operating table or in a hospital where bad bacteria are prevalent. Of course, encouraging diversity by letting children interact with nature and getting close to the soil can also help them and their internal bacteria grow more robustly. In conclusion, destroying the natural ecological environment could lead to the loss of the Great Barrier Reef. Similarly, understanding the body's internal environment from the same perspective provides a different viewpoint on what constitutes a disease. In most cases, the disease is a dysbiosis in the body, a disruption of the symbiotic relationship between humans and bacteria, where the overall microbial community turns into a state that induces disease. Viewing problems from this perspective can give us new insights into diagnosing and treating diseases and a new understanding of child development. All right, up to this point, I've covered a broad range of key points. Here's a simple summary for you. Bacteria do not necessarily cause diseases. Humans and bacteria have been cohabitating for millions of years, with the majority of bacteria in the human body living in peace. Those that invade the body and cause diseases only make up a small part. This symbiotic relationship between humans and bacteria aids in infants' growth and the immune system's normal functioning. However, the symbiosis between humans and bacteria is far more complex and needs to be viewed from the entire symbiotic ecosystem to understand the impact of bacteria. We need to realize that bacteria are both collaborators and parasites. Symbiosis is a relationship of mutual use. The human body and bacteria each have their own interests. The symbiosis between humans and bacteria doesn't mean that humans and bacteria are naturally harmonious. Together with other external environments, they form an ecosystem. If this ecosystem remains stable and balanced, humans can maintain their health. Conversely, if this balance is disrupted, the body's ecological imbalance will manifest as microbial dysbiosis, and people will get sick. Yong's book not only changes the general prejudice against bacteria, but also gives us several important perspectives to view the world. First, the macro and the micro are surprisingly similar from the perspective of microbes. The world of microbes in the universe are both filled with countless individuals. Second, using a macro view to analyze the micro, interpreting human health and disease from the perspective of ecological balance, provides a new angle to understand and treat diseases. We advocate for the protection of biodiversity and the care for environmental balance. Similarly, we can understand ourselves from this perspective. That's all the content for this audio session. Congratulations on finishing another book.